are about people and about experiences that may not replicate our own. For example, Our Classroom is a Family is on this list, which is a book about how we create empathetic relationships in school. Terrific, I'll keep going, it's my turn to speak now.
Hold on one second, please, nothing from the floor. It's her turn to speak, thank you.
Water for Elephants is on the list, which was made into a major motion picture. It's about a coming-of-age story about a young man who joins the circus. On the list is Beloved by Toni Morrison, which won a Pulitzer Prize in 1988. Is some of the content challenging to read? It sure is. But is it appropriate in some circumstances to talk about the lives of and experiences of people who don't look like us or sound like us or have the history of us, to understand what that's like, to understand that background? The Glass Castle is a really hard look at life and poverty. I've read these books. The Kite Runner offers, there is some rough content in that book, I won't deny it, but it's a story, this is my time, not yours. There is content in that that presents a multicultural lens on a world that looks very, very different than the experience that any of us have had. I've read that book, it was a hard read, and I read it as an adult, and I'll acknowledge that. That was a hard read. There are books on this list, and I'll say some of them. This has nothing to do with pornographic content. Black Software, the Internet and Racial Justice. What is the Black Lives Matter movement? Brave Leaders and Activists. These are some of the lists on this book, books on this list. There's a book called Blended. Here's a description of the book, and this is the exact description that was sent to us. Piano prodigy Isabella, 11, whose black father and white mother struggle to share custody, never feels whole, especially as racial tensions affect her school. Her parents both become engaged, and she and her, this is my time. You sent this. You sent this description.
Schiff, hold on one second. Don't engage.
Yeah.
Because we asked the public.
You're right. Got it.
We asked the
I hear
public
you.
not to engage.
I get
please.
it.
Thank you.
And she and her stepbrother are stopped by police. That's the description of the book. So when I think about some of these books, when I think about my experience, when I think about what I would encourage my son to read, first off, if my son would read, if he would read books this deep and this intense, I'd be delighted, frankly. Is some of the content inappropriate? Is some of the content something that we would talk about as a family, as a parent, and that if he were reading this content in school, that I would hope is inside of a class discussion about how to understand this content, about how to understand lives that don't look like ours. It is also true that some citizens I am aware of have gone through these books and have noticed about, give or take 50% of this is LGBTQIA+. Much of it is about African American lives. Much of this is about content that don't replicate the life I've had. But here is something about the life I've had. I am a Jewish American. I read books about the Holocaust, and it deeply pains me. I can barely get through some of it. But does that mean I shouldn't read it? Does that mean I shouldn't be exposed to it? We just came off Holocaust Awareness Week, frankly, last week. We had presentations in schools about this. Do I want our children, when I sit here as someone who was not raised Christian, in a Christian community, every time we have a conversation about Christian values, that excludes me, because that presumes I don't share those values in some way. And I get it, I'm getting emotional here. But there is a presumption here that we are somehow intentionally doing something harmful in our community and to our students. And there is no intent to harm. We are here as educators. We are here as people who sat up on this dais because we took a stand. And we took a stand in favor of education and in favor of students. And we did it because we care, not because there's an intention to harm. So should we follow state statute? Of course we should. Of course we should. But is there a conversation about what is appropriate content and how that content is presented? This is not content that's inside our curriculum. We heard that today from our superintendent in our workshop. I know that each of you has had conversations, numerous conversations, with our superintendent as often as I have, probably. I don't know that, I presume that. Because if I'm talking to him, I presume that the other 4 of you are talking to him as often as I do. I am confident that he is aware of the issue. I am confident that his intention is for the best interests of our students and for our community. I have no doubt about that. So do I feel like I need to say, here's what you need to do and how you need to do it, when I'm quite confident that he's already doing it? When I'm quite confident that this material is not in our curriculum, and if it is assigned in some way in a classroom, it will be assigned inside the context of a conversation about how we understand, how we have difficult conversations, what we mean to each other, and how we develop empathy for experiences that are not our own. So yeah, I'm a little emotional about this conversation because I don't like the direction it's going. I don't like the direction when we start to define who can read what and who gets to say what that is. Who gets to say? Do we follow statute? Of course we do. But do you get to say what my child is allowed to read? No.